Hey Marjan, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm hot. Where are you calling from?
Hot. I'm calling from Amsterdam. Quiet Amsterdam, but sunny.
So I'm Marcus Fairs, founder and editor-in-chief of Dezeen. You're Marjan van Aubel, Solar
Yeah.
Queen. And this is the first of a new series of interviews with designers, mostly youngish, up-and-coming designers sponsored by Philips TV and Sound. Marjan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So my name is Marjan van Aubel, and I call myself a solar designer now. I studied here. I did my BA here in Amsterdam at the Rietveld Academy, and then later went on to do the master at RCA in London, where I lived for 7 years. And basically, I kind of like did projects like the well-proven chair together with James Shaw, where I developed a porcelain that was kind of expanding, really like a sort of material base. But yeah, since 3 years now, when I moved back, I call myself a solar designer because I mostly focus my work now just on changing the perspective of solar energy.
And I think you have some virtual backgrounds that express your work. You were showing them to me earlier because you had your birthday recently, didn't you? And I think you created these backgrounds for your party. Let's see some of your virtual backgrounds.
I shouldn't have told you this. I shouldn't have told you this. But okay, now, well, I can first sometimes, of course, go to this classic one, the sun. Or if I talk about photosynthesis and the sun. But also, this was my birthday background. Couldn't see, this is glitters, which I love, but it's also places where you want to be. If you get this question, I like this one. But now I'm going back to my studio because I like to be here now.
So whereabouts in Amsterdam? Are you in the center or are you on a canal? What's the view out the window like?
So it's like super central. It's like one of the oldest canals in Amsterdam. So the big ships came in here in the old days, and I think it's from like 1300 or something. So it's super quiet now because mostly this area is like right next to the red light district, and it's really nice to walk there now. So I walk from my house to my studio, and I start to rediscover and reappreciate the city of Amsterdam because mostly they're just tourists and I can't really see the city very well.
Yeah, that's an interesting phenomenon. Like so many cities, so many especially beautiful cities have been kind of overrun by tourists in the last 10 or 20 years. What is it like to live in a city centre like Amsterdam without tourists? Presumably better.
Yeah, it's like you get the city back. It's like it feels. It's like I said, I go for a lot of walks. It's you own the city again, and it was King's Day a couple of weeks ago, and there was like no other people came in. It felt like a sort of King's Day from after the war, from the 50s, when there was like just liberations and like people like had their streets locked off with like okay, and the neighbors were like chatting to each other. There were dogs, children. It was super nice. Maybe my favorite one of all.
And in the city of Amsterdam, you were saying earlier that things are beginning to unlock a little bit, but is there any moves to stop the tourists coming back in such great numbers? Because Amsterdam was already concerned about the number of tourists beforehand, wasn't it?
I think that's definitely where like there's a lot of talk about that. I hope that will, I think we can see how the city can be, and it's a bit too quiet now, I have to say, but I think there's definitely like a space and opportunity like to see like how do we want the city to sort of the inhabitants can have the city back, and it's not about a city for tourists but also for people from Amsterdam and maybe a couple of tourists,
A couple.
There's a lot of talk about that.
Okay, you've prepared a little presentation that explains your work. Do you want to share the screen now?
Yes, I'll do that. I need. Can you see this?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Like I said, I am fascinated by solar technology, and it's because it's this technology that takes sunlight, comes to the surface, and then it's being transformed into energy, and you don't have to do anything for that. But if we think about solar panels, I think we all think about these blue panels on roofs, and we don't have so much of a relationship with that, or we don't have so much of an opinion about it because it's this technology. And then I found also technologies that actually, you could actually say we think they're ugly. I mean, and we're not going to change the world with ugly things. So I found some like super nice technologies that actually are not the standard ones, but could be transparent glass, and they can be colored. So basically stained glass. So here you see current window. First project I want to talk about. And current window, of course, the name says it all already. It's like it has a current. It generates electricity. So the colored ones are all solar panels. And in the window ledge, you see a sort of battery where you can charge your phone from. So it generates electricity, but also it's like a new way of looking at things. Can a window be something else than just a window, but also a little power station in your house? It's basically thinking of from an extreme efficiency. Going to like another project which is called Current Table. And it basically lets me to the question of like, what if every object in your house could be a solar panel? Because what's super nice about this technology is that it works differently than the sort of the standard PV photovoltaics that are on the roofs that always need direct sunlight, because they also work indoors or even under the shadow. So now you have the opportunity to have solar energy in your house. And what would be then objects that's you don't use all the time, which is a table, it has a lot of surfaces. So in the tabletop, there are all these colored solar cells integrated. There's a battery in the window ledge, and there's a phone charging, as you can see on the table. So it's a new way of looking at objects. Can a table be something else than just a table? This is another collaboration I did together with Swarovski, the crystal company. And if you cut crystals in a certain way, you're able to bend and direct the light onto a certain point. So we use these crystals to focus the light onto a solar panel. So on the back, you see these stripes are solar panels that we developed together with ECN TNO, that's an energy research center in the Netherlands. And this collaboration was part of the Designer of the Future Awards in 2017, and it also led to a show exhibition during Art Basel. I think, Marcus, that was where we actually met.
Yeah, I moderated a talk with you and Bureau Spectacular, and I can't remember who else was there, but yeah, that was a fun day.
Super nice interview afterwards. Yeah, so this is I call them now sort of solar crystals. So you take during the day, you take the solar crystal in the light, it charges, then you take it back, put it in this docking station. I chose this kind of like sort of this focus image, so you can't see the whole installation, but later on we had installation after Basel in Hong Kong and other places in the world where you saw a couple of these solar crystals charging big chandeliers. So these were. But these chandeliers we developed also into products, because the chandeliers were just prototypes, as you could say. But these are part now of the Crystal Palace collection of Swarovski. So you have a standing light, a hanging light, and a wall light. This is the wall light. And I mean, coming back from materials and like coming from the materials itself, I think this is a beautiful crystal because it's also made of Swarovski crystal, is an opal. So it's basically like a mini version of the sky, you could say, because it refracts the light similarly as the sky does. So when you have it like straight, it has a blue color. When you come from the top, it's a bit red, like when you have sunset and sunrise. So I think this is a beautiful material. This is a different scale, also with solar panels. If you look closely here in the render, you can discover some power plants. And it's basically, I started the question also thanks to the help of the New Institute in Rotterdam, of like, what can you do otherwise with solar energy than just providing energy? Can you also solve some other problems? For example, our food shortage. And again, I started thinking from the material itself, and also found out there are solar cells that are completely transparent. I thought, then I think it was like in the Netherlands somewhere we have all these greenhouses. And I thought, what if you can combine the solar cells together with the glass and have basically the two in one. So you combine the traditional farming that's use a lot of lights and has a lot of surface together with high-tech farming that requires a lot of energy. So this is the idea of power plants. Maybe I can explain you quickly how that works. I can do that here. This is part of an installation that was first shown at the London Design Festival. And basically on the side, there's a transparent solar glass, and there's like kind of like there's a strip on the edge with sort of solar, tiny solar panels. So it like comes in and directs the light to the sides. So basically the solar panels become invisible. Those are powering sort of the indoors climates. The hydroponics. Hydroponics is a way where you pump around water, where you're saving a lot of water as well. It powers LED lights, because with LED lights you can grow plants more efficient. You can control the colors. So if you want to say, okay, I want my tomato to grow this fast, you change the red, or you can really control basically everything with those LED lights. And as more and more people start to live in big cities, this was a way of how can you produce your foods locally, sort of like this one ecosystem where you don't have to come in and fly your food from the other side of the world, but it really, you grow it on the place where you directly need it. So yeah, it's like, and here was kind of like a celebration of all these technologies, like the 21st century, where you really like bring all these new technologies together. It's like a Kew garden of the 21st century, I would say. But yeah, it was like I think the biggest compliment I got was, where are the solar panels? Because they're invisible. And that was like, I think that when design really works, when you don't see it and it becomes so natural and visible. This is something else. This was quite a recent project, because I was asked by the Rijksbouwmeester, which is the sort of chief architect of the government, I guess, and a program called Young Innovators, to think about how buildings from the government could generate energy. And this is the Ministry of Finance, and it used to be a kind of like an old brutalist building from the 1970s, and with like super nice concrete details. And in 2008 they renovated and put this like glass facade on top, also to have a sort of climate tower and stuff. But as in 2040, all government buildings need to be circular and CO2 neutral. They have to start thinking of like, okay, how do we have to transform these quite prominent existing buildings here? So they asked me to like with this question, and basically what you see here is like we added this kind of like a solar skin to the building. So everything is kind of like, if you look from the right direction, is still intact, but the panels kind of like move together with the sun. It's like heliotropy, when it's the facade, like the surface follows the sun all the time. And it looks a bit like sort of butterfly skin. So it like the pattern becomes like changed all the time. You can't really see this in this render very well, but, and also I think on my website there is a film where it shows that very nicely. So here you're in the tower, and it's kind of, if you look up in the tower, it's kind of like a sort of a modern church, maybe, I don't know. But this was also a question like, how can you make solar panels even circular, and what are other ways to apply this? So we developed some kind of stickers. You can, a very long, big one, you can put on there and like really think about like, okay, how do you transport them? What do you do with it when you don't need them anymore? For example, if it's just like a permanent installation. I'm kind of like also talking about two projects yet, because it's I'm also working on a super nice project with the government, but I can't talk about that yet because it's we will announce it in June. but it's like a similar concept of that and similar things we use for this proposal for the Ministry of Finance. And yeah, so it's a nice new way of looking at what is the future of solar even. This is a project I can talk about. It's also something I'm working at the moment, and it's new lights. It's called Sanne, and we will launch a Kickstarter for this this summer. And basically, it's very simple. One side is a solar panel, and it's again developed together with ECN Teno, so it works indoors, and it has this kind of like this velvety back. And on the other side, it is a light, and it has like different type of settings. We have sunrise, sunset, and daytime. And I think this is kind of like quite a revolution, I hope, as it's like the first object that people can have in their home that is and actually can buy and have to have access to solar technology, because I live in the center. I don't have access to solar panels because I don't have access to the roof because it's not my own house and we have to share it. It's a monument, all these restrictions. So how can we use all possible surfaces to generate electricity, to generate energy on the place we need it, and also to give like the autonomy back to the objects. Yeah, so it's kind of like a solar democracy, I call it, and this is like a beginning of this. And yeah, we launch it in this summer, so you can pre-order. Yeah, I think this is it.
Great, thank you very much. And so Marjan, tell us more about this secret project.
Yeah, it's secret, huh?
Yeah, tell me more about the secret.
I wish I could think about it. It's like, sorry?
That's the one I'm most interested in, the secret project.
Yeah, it's not. It's gonna be nice and big, beautiful, relevant. I think very relevant as well to really change perspectives.
I guess we have to wait for that. But tell me more about this concept of solar democracy, because you showed, well, there was the last table, which is a project which is the lights that's going to be launched on Kickstarter soon. And then you showed the table, and I suppose also the first image of the window is something that everyone could use. But is there enough solar light inside someone's house to be useful? Do you not have to have the solar panels on the rooftop or on the outside to be effective?
Yes, that's the most effective place, of course. And yeah, I can't guarantee that there's enough light in your room, and it depends also where it is. For example, the table, it needs to be like 8 meters away. There was a maximum place in a very well lit room, you know. So it's kind of like difficult to say if there's enough light, because I can't guarantee that. But for example, if you think about the window there, it's south facing, of course there will be enough light. So that's also why it's important that these objects become like smart as well. So we will also develop an app that can read also sort of, okay, there's enough light, okay, change my position, because otherwise it's, yeah. That was also interesting with the Ministry of Finance. Like, okay, those, and that's why they also turn with the sun. So you have to become a bit smarter.
And so say your house has a south facing window and you have your solar democracy light there. How much solar power can that generate? Is it just enough to power the light, or can you also charge your phone, or can you also power your whole house or charge your car? What's the potential of a product like that?
That would be nice if one light could power your house, but no, I think this is just for the lights. And but I'm also thinking about like other things near the window. It's like it's sort of a part of a series that, yeah, you have to sort of think about curtains, or I name whatever that will have more surface. But I'm actually thinking, okay, these are objects, but what if you go scale beyond? You know, of course, in the examples of Ministry of Finance, there's a facades, but what if the streets and stuff? And what if your neighbor has more sun? How can you share the energy? How can you like distribute that? It's like, that's also a part of the solar democracy. So I would say like solar energy for everyone, everywhere. But you don't need it all the time. So what do we need to exchange that? Is it blockchain? Is it, I don't know.
So hang on, so the blockchain would be used to do what? So you would sell your surplus energy? Is that how it would work?
Could be, yeah. So like really think more locally or in communities and stuff, but really to like gain the power to the people again, instead of like having it back, now in this big sort of, I think the harbor of Amsterdam wants to be like the big battery of the city. So all the energy goes into the city, but what if the city itself is a battery and everything is generated on the roofs, on the, I don't know, like the city itself becomes like an infrastructure, like the old canals were the infrastructure of the city, but now maybe the energy structure can be sort of the new infrastructure.
And the Ministry of Finance project that you showed, is that going to happen? Is that a real live project?
Well, it was, but then Corona came. Yeah, so that's on being on hold, and they, it's, yeah, I think you have to wait for that because the government has other issues now. Then, but I think it's actually, it would be super good if this would happen, because it's now the time to show these examples, and so I hope the Rijksbouwmeester is listening now.
And how much of the power requirements of that building would that solar facade generate? All of it or half of it? How much? What's the
There was like a whole proposal. I just show you like two things, because it was like also an installation in the middle. There's like a super nice thing on the solar panels on the roof that would power all of it. Although no, yeah, it would power all.
And you talked about, we've written about this on Dezeen before, but in the Netherlands, this plan for the country to become a circular economy by 2040. Tell us a little bit about that, and also the potential of solar power to help achieve that. And for anyone who's watching who doesn't know, circular economy is an economy where there is no waste, there is no pollution generated, all of the resources are used and then reused forever, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, it's a bit looking at nature, how like a tree falls off, it goes, it's been eaten by worms, like, you know, the circle of life, you would say. But yeah, and I think also, especially solar panels, we have to think about circularity like a lot, because now, okay, the lifespan is 40 years, 50 years, and then there are like now ways of like how to recycle them. But what if you have organic solar panels, for example, or and ways of like how to take them apart, use them for something else. That's why the sort of the flexible and the stickers and stuff are part of this new circular way of thinking.
So tell me about the stickers. I didn't quite understand that. So the solar panel is the sticker. So it's something you can apply to things and then presumably take off again afterwards.
Exactly, yeah. So it's like a flexible thing. You put it on, it's transparent. It was for this project Can't Talk About, but it's like, that's because that's not like permanent. So how can you not think about something that's there for a year or half year, but take it away again and use it for something else? And in this case, it's a very clever way.
And that's a technology, a product that exists already?
We're developing that now also for this, yeah.
So that was going to be my next question. That where do you get your solar panels from? Are they things that you just buy online from China, or are you actually working with manufacturers to develop new solar products?
Yeah, so I showed, I think now 4 different technologies, and it's really for me also important to work together with the manufacturers, the researchers, to really get like in this quite early stage. So not that designers is like souls that come on the end and okay, this is a panel, what can you do with this? But really think like in an early stage, like what are the other possibilities? But mostly it's been a super close collaboration with companies from South Korea or Switzerland, Germany, it was, yeah, Delft, even the clear glass is a company in Delft.
And you said you've been working mostly in solar for what, 3-4 years, something like that? And in that time, have you seen the photovoltaic technology improve dramatically?
I think like, it's not that true that I've been only working with it for 3 years, but it's like my focus for 3 years, because I was working on the chairs, on the foam porcelain, other projects. But yes, I could definitely say especially the industry is changing, because it was kind of like the old old-fashioned wouldn't say, but like a solid, yeah, maybe old-fashioned industry. And the question I got was like, what's the efficiency? What's the price, you know? And now they saw that basically there is not enough solar panels, so what do we need to do? And now they add on the layer of design to it. So that is changing for sure. And also, it also means rooms for new other ways of like how to integrate that. And BIPV, a built integrated photovoltaic, is a big topic now. How to use a house for to generate electricity. Is a house broken when it doesn't generate its energy anymore in the future? I hope you're going to say that.
And what is the potential of solar power at the moment? Could it generate all of the world's power needs if it was done intelligently and rolled out across the world?
Yeah.
Tell us what is the potential for it?
Yeah, so there's like this quote I like to use. It's like that every hour we receive enough sunlight to provide the world with enough electricity for an entire year. That's fact is mind-blowing anyway. If you would say that to a surface, that would be like a small, like the size of France, for example, or Spain, then it could power the whole world. So
but of course, you couldn't put solar panels across all of France. But where could you find the equivalent of the whole of France? Is there enough rooftops in the world? Are there enough, I don't know, car roofs or streets or walls to generate all the power we need?
I think it would be a mistake to just put like, okay, there's our free space, let's put solar panels. That would be, I think, a mistake also because, especially in the Netherlands, there's not a lot of nature or free space. So I think it's a combination of those and how to integrate it think about distribution centers, you know, this has a lot of roof. Or, but what if it becomes like I said, part of the daily environment? And I think solar always needs another type of energy next to it. So wind, for example, because it doesn't always, it's less reliable.
And you said in your talk, in your presentation, that the port area of Amsterdam, there's a proposal to turn that into a power plant or a battery or something. Is that a real project? Is that something that's actually happening?
The port of Amsterdam?
I think you mentioned that the port of Amsterdam could be like a power source or a battery.
The port of the harbor is working on that at the moment. So they really see, because they just closed down last year the coal factory. So it's like, it has a lot of empty space and a lot of potential as well. So a lot of free space, and how are you going to fill this space? They really want to turn it into the battery of Amsterdam with renewables.
And the rooftop project that you showed, where you also grow food, presumably that generates more power than it needs to grow the food. So it's also like a power production plant. How much power could one of those little greenhouses generate?
Well, I have to say the transparent solar panels are less efficient than the normal one, the sort of the super efficient ones. But I think that's like okay, because if it's cheap and sort of has a function because you can see through it, it doesn't matter. The efficiency doesn't matter. That's like, I would say, an old-fashioned question. So I wouldn't say it can power a lot of other things, because like the LED lights, the sort of the sensors, the thing is, I think it's like sort of a system that needs to be in sort of ecosystem.
And of course, sun doesn't shine all the time, especially at night. So are you also developing battery technology to store the power, or is that you work with battery developers when you're coming up with your solar products?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could do that, but it's like the next topic that we will have to, it's like a problem, I would say, because the batteries are expensive, they're made of rare materials. Yeah, so, but no, I can't like do everything. I wish I would, but I'm working. Yeah, I would like to work with a sustainable battery, but I'm watching this field.
And what's your, I mean, of course you work in solar, you believe in solar, but what are the things that are stopping solar from realizing its potential? Obviously, we all like the idea of having a solar powered car, for example, or solar panels on the roof. In fact, I looked into it for our house recently.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an offer in our neighborhood, like a neighborhood the local council set up a scheme whereby you could get a quote from a company to come and put solar panels on your roof at a discounted price. But even with that discounted price, it would have taken 25 years to earn back the money. And it took me so long to figure out whether to do it or not that the offer, by the time, it wasn't that I didn't want to do it, I just didn't move quickly enough. It just didn't seem like, of all the things I could do to be more sustainable in my life, it didn't seem like, it was a very expensive way of achieving not very much, unfortunately.
Yeah, I hear you, and I think that's a problem. And I think that's, I'm actually started a kind of like a movement, a solar movement, together with Marjan van Aubel, because we get these questions a lot, and we can't just say like, okay, let's make, it's like integrate solar more into our everyday life. It's like that's one solution. We need the whole system to change. So this movement consists out of like professors, but like policymakers, banks even, you know, because your problem you're mentioning here is like, I think the payback time is just wrong, you know. So what if you could have a sort of like a different type of loan together with the bank? So it would change the system. I think the whole system needs to change, and you can't do that from one angle. You need to like work on those problems from different angles.
And what about in the Netherlands? Because my country is not very progressive about things like this. There used to be some subsidies that would help you pay for the solar panels, but they took them away. But is the Netherlands, is the government there more encouraging? Does it help people invest in the technology? Is it a good place to be based?
I have to say they quit some subsidies for solar energy now, but I mean, I lived in the UK too. I think they're quite comparable, to be honest. So there's a lot of, they really like to innovate and stuff, and they stimulate these kind of initiatives. But I think there's a lot of improvement still.
And for you personally, what was it about solar power that made you think this is the thing I want to work on? Was there excuse the phrase, a light bulb moment, or was there a sort of discovery, or did you see something in a shop or whatever?
I don't know. I think I fell in love with solar panels, and you can't explain that, you know. No, and it's also like the more you dive into it, the more you learn about it. It becomes more and more interesting. Sorry.
And did you mention Theresa van Dongen that you're doing a project with her? Because I think she's one of the people we're going to interview in the future.
Marjan van Aubel.
Oh, Pauline, yeah.
She's a fashion designer which integrates solar in fashion.
Yeah. And we've got a question from a reader. Elisa Svelson has asked, are your products already available on the market, or will there be a time they are? So you mentioned about the lights going to be a Kickstarter, but what about the Swarovski products? What about, is there, if people want to buy one of your products, can they do that already?
Yeah, they can buy the Swarovski lights to the website, the Crystal Palace collection. But the lights, the sun lights, will be available this summer. So we launch. You can be part of the first batch that we're going to create. And
do you know already how much they're going to cost?
Yes, I know. They're going to be 800 euros. So I would say 700 pounds. I don't know the exchange rate now.
And what kind of solar technology is in that light?
Well, that's called. Yeah, it's like the one of the newest. I don't think of an example of that. There's like one of like the sort of how you say that. They use the same one in the Lightyear car. I don't know if you're familiar with that car. It's like the solar car. So it's, I would say, one of the best solar panels that are existing now, the strongest, because they need to be super efficient.
And you talked about solar stickers and transparent solar panels and things like that. What other interesting technologies are just around the corner in terms of solar power? What will happen next? I mean, for example, I remember reading something recently about nanotechnology solar panels, where they get added onto the surface of bricks or roof tiles or something like that. So it's not actually something you can separate from the surface, it's part of the surface.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that and any other future technologies that we might be looking forward to in the next few years?
Yeah, see, I mean, I know about the paint you can, I think the Dezeen is working on that. But I imagine that it would be sort of kind of like a substance, you know, you can build with solar technology. I can imagine that sort of like, okay, it's part of the, basically the soil or something. So you build bricks, the grounds of the floors are made of that, everything is, could be part of that. So it becomes like an element. I don't know, that would be nice. To really work on nanotechnology.
And anything else, or any other amazing things coming up?
Well, I think that's really like mind blowing. I think about like, first I was like, okay, glass, color, and like transparency, you know, and I was like, thinking, what if you can basically have one element that could make everything again? So everything becomes like self-powered, self-sustainable. Yeah, you don't, yeah, that would be great. We don't have to be looking up again. We don't have to look, sorry, we don't have to look down again, but we can like constantly looking up, and something that is like free, available for everyone. That's also, yeah, I think, yeah.
And have you ever worked with any car companies or vehicle companies? There's that solar challenge, isn't there, in Australia each year, when there's you have to race across Australia with a solar powered car. Is that realistic that vehicles could be powered by solar power? Could you have solar powered planes one day? Can they generate enough power to move people around?
Yeah, it's like, again, that's a problem with the battery, you know. So the cars, yeah, you can look at the example of Lightyear. That's a super good example of using solar power to really drive around. But the power planes, yeah, it's a battery that's now too heavy, so you can't basically lift up because, yeah, it's too heavy. So that's something needs, yeah, needs to be developed.
And I guess the ultimate solar powered thing is the thing that's behind you, a plant, which is pretty much water and sunlight to create a biological solar powered thing. Most of the, well, all of the stuff that you've been talking about is kind of technological and electrical, but is there an opportunity in the future to create biological solar power plants, or merging plants with human uses, so you could plug your phone into a tree, for example?
Yeah, I mean, the plant is already a very clever solar panel in a way. Yeah, you can use different, there's this company that uses the sort of the electricity from the roots or something to that gives a little current. But that's again like nanotechnology. So I know there are some universities working on this subject, but it's again this far future.
Okay, well, it's
Not
been
even
great.
not even skin or things or clothing, everything can also be self-powering.
It's been great to talk to you again, Marjan, and good luck with your work. And I'm looking
Thank
forward
you.
particularly to hearing about the secret projects, because if you tell me there's a secret, then I'm going to want to ask what it is, but I guess I have to wait till June. And good luck with the launch of your light product as well. And I hope
Thank you. Nice to talk to you. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.